We already have the days counted for the War Within, so surely many of you are cleaning up World of Warcraft and want to have a nice interface to start with. So I'm going to show you how I have mine, the work I've been doing over the last 4 years, almost 5 years, to go from what my interface was to having something that I'm really comfortable, happy, and truly at ease with, right? And I can play well, I understand everything I need to do, and it's also visually nice and pleasant. So I'm going to explain what my interface consists of, which add-ons I have, which add-ons I recommend, and I'll also leave all the links below in the description so you can download everything completely free, get all the profiles, and these links will always be updated whether you're watching this during the War Within, at midnight, or I don't know, in World of Warcraft 3.0, it doesn't matter to me. So let's get started, and I'll remind you a bit about what everything consists of. Am I going to start with the most basic ones first, okay? The most visual ones once you open the game, would that be okay? And as for the interface itself, right? The health, frames, the group frames also, when I'm in a dungeon, in a raid, etc., etc., etc. All of this you see is mainly LVUI, an add-on that you probably already know is very comprehensive. Why do I use this and not the base Dragonfly interface that they introduced when the expansion was released? Could I really use it? Okay, but there are two main reasons why I don't use them. One, every time a patch comes out and they release a new update, my profile gets messed up, so I can't share it with you. And second, one reason I ended up sticking with LVUI is that it lets me customize all the auras, defensives, and buffs to my liking. It's very easy for me with this class to choose which buffs I want to see on the group frames when in a dungeon. I want to see the heals I cast and place them in a specific spot to know, well, who has, I don't know, Renewing Mist, who has Tidal Waves, who has my defensive, which defensives are being used, and which 400th one has been used. It's much easier for me to modify it because I can set it up to my liking with the size I want in the way I want. I can choose whether I want it to be an icon or just a color to guide me, because with color guides, I can do absolutely everything. That's why I ended up sticking with it, and besides, it's much easier to export it for you. The usual question, does this affect performance? My PC is running, I don't know, I'm getting 30 FPS, Carlos. If I install LVUI, will it drop to 20? No. If your PC runs well without LVUI, it will run well with LVUI. If your PC runs poorly with LVUI, it will run poorly with LVUI. It doesn't change anything at all. Maybe you lose 1 FPS, something you will never notice, and I don't even think that will happen. So don't worry about performance, as none of these add-ons consume much in terms of performance, especially if you have an optimized profile like I do. Another important topic is nameplates whenever you're with enemies, right? In fact, I was looking at the dummies just so you can see, or in any Mythic Plus, or in a raid, in any encounter. Actually, Mythic Plus is more about how I have set up my profile, right? The whole nameplate thing is something Blizzard hasn't really touched much, right? It hasn't been left to the consumer's liking, let's say. And since Blizzard doesn't want to do it, well, we have to rely on add-ons like this platter, which I find the most complete for nameplates. What does it consist of? Basically, it lets you set the nameplates to your liking. For example, I have them set so that the name appears large. As you can see, different colors appear, which is also important because with my profile, I use it every season so that in things like Mythic Plus, you know what you have to do. I follow a color guide where the enemies appear in red. Red are normal enemies. The enemies with blue nameplates are casters and can be interrupted. The ones that are purple are the most important in the pull and have priority for DPS, or because they have a super important cast that if it goes off, everyone dies. Or the mini-bosses also appear with a slightly more greenish-blue color so that it's easy for you, even without knowing the dungeon, without even seeing a guide, just by seeing the colors you already understand what you have to do, which greatly helps in facilitating learning. And since I always keep it updated, it's super easy to stay informed about everything. In fact, it's such a powerful add-on that if something isn't to your liking, you have a ton of configuration options here to change everything to your preference. You can change the color, shape, size, numbers if you want more debuff, less debuff. For example, here I have some debuffs that I don't want to appear. I want others that I do want to appear. You can do, well, crazy things. There are also mods for classes. Like, for example, if you're a Shadow Priest, imagine you're a Shadow Priest. You can get mods on Wago for your class, for example. If you leave them debuffed with Vampiric Touch, it changes their color. If you are, I don't know, Affliction with Unstable Affliction, it changes color to let you know that you don't need to dot that enemy again. It's quite comprehensive lately. It has a lot of features. In fact, I have some here, for example, a mod that abbreviates the name because in English, the important part is always at the end, while in Spanish, it's the opposite. There are also mods that do this. It's a super powerful add-on. It doesn't consume any resources either, so don't worry about performance, which is incredible. Then there's another add-on that goes very well with this one, right? In fact, I think it has been seen here before when Unstable Affliction was applied because that's a bit of a PvP remnant. But in Mythic Plus, it's also important to know when enemies are CC'd, when they are stunned, when something important is applied to them so you can apply it back and not waste a button, right? Well, with the add-on I use, which is Nameplate Auras, it does exactly that. Every time some type of debuff is applied to an enemy, it appears above their health bar as CC, so you can see it clearly. Because many times when you're attacking, you see the debuffs, but they appear small, right? Totally. You want to see how important it is when someone gets stunned, it shows up big so you're aware of it, that they've been stunned and you don't have to worry, you see. Everything shows up big like that. It can also be used for PvP, as I mentioned before. That's why the topic of unstable affliction is considered important. But as I said, you can modify it to your liking. I'm not really sure if the profile is actually exportable, but the default configuration works perfectly. You really won't notice it. I haven't changed practically anything. And that also helps a lot when it comes to understanding everything that's happening. Then there's another add-on. This one seems unrelated to combat because it's a bit different. It seems like roleplay, but honestly, this developer seems like someone who should be working at Blizzard for all the things they do and is narcissistic. I think I've talked about this person many times already. I discovered them about a year ago, and I find it incredible. First, you see things and say, well, it has this pretty nice FK mode, right? The one that shows you the gear. You even have a gem manager here to change them directly to whatever you want. Here you can also, I don't know, change your title, see where you got the title from, check if your gear is enchanted or not, switch items with others you have, change enchantments. It shows you the stats in a very nice and organized way too, right? Visually, it looks very polished. Here you can also see your tier set. You can even see the tiers of the other specs too, and if you feel like it, you can see your 11, you can see your reputations, everything is very well set up. Not only that, I could make a 25-minute video about Narcissus because it has so many features. But the important things for which I use it are, first, in AFK mode, it looks nice. Second, every time you inspect a person, you can directly see their talents. You don't have to click on talents, which makes it much easier. In fact, it has a way for you to directly copy their build, so if you feel like it, you can see what differences you have or copy their build. You also have a photography mode if you feel like taking a snapshot of your character and placing it wherever you want. You can hide it, place your character anywhere, change animations. You can do absolutely everything. You can add a lot of things. You can literally customize it to your liking. You can darken the rest of the elements, add a vignette effect, do whatever you want. You can change the lighting, the angle, you can do everything. This add-on is truly amazing for all these features. Another thing, for the barbershop, it also saves the appearances you have with your characters. In Remix, many people will have it because in Remix, it allowed you to control the gems. So it's an add-on that right now has a ton of features that make the game feel very polished. The good thing is that as new things come out in the patch, it introduces small features to help and make everything feel integrated into the game. This add-on doesn't feel like an add-on. It feels like part of the base game. So I highly recommend it. Even when you hide the interface, it lets you move the camera however you want. You can even increase the quality if you want to take a snapshot or something, zoom in, zoom out, do whatever you want. I'm telling you, this add-on is incredible and 100% recommended. Also, continuing with the whole interface and organization theme for managing cooldowns, as I mentioned before, defensive auras and so on. An add-on I use a lot and have really gotten the hang of, and that everyone should use because the more people use it, the better it is Omnic CD. Omnic CD is an add-on that basically shows you the cooldowns of your teammates' abilities. You can set it up however you want. I use it to see both offensive abilities because, well, people are watching my stream, right? And you want to know when people use their cooldowns, or, for example, if you play as an evoker, to see the defensive abilities, to see if someone has active defensives, if they are using abilities. For example, if you are a healer, to know who has a lot of stuff, or to know if someone has nothing and you need to lend a hand. It helps to be aware of absolutely everything. You can configure it however you want. In fact, when I am a tank, I have a different bar to track only the 200th. So when I am calling out, I can organize the entire 200th chain well and know who has what, making it super complete. I'll also share the profile I use for both DPs and tank, which includes the CC theme, so you can use it. It's an add-on that helps a lot if everyone has it because it works with cooldown reduction. You know that classes like Fire Mage and Frost Mage have cooldown reduction. If they also have it, the add-on shows you their cooldown reduction so you know when they have the ability to use. So it's highly recommended. Well, apart from this, there's the typical weak auras, right? I could make a 30-minute video about weak auras. I'll make a video talking about the most important weak auras. What I use, the ones you are seeing here in the center, are the class auras. You will find them below in my profile. All the classes you see me play are classes that I have Wicca completely. Customized auras made in this same visual style. Okay, what? For anyone who wants to use this type of Wicca auras. But I'm telling you, I will make a video talking about the auras that I find most important and that will be useful for war weddings. So if not, leave me comments with suggestions of add-ons you want me to cover and I will likely recommend them as well. Then we will move on to talents, then we will move on to add-ons, a bit more utility and convenience, okay? The first one is item grade quality icon. What does this do? You already know that with the new gear upgrade system, well, they have different ranks, right? Adventurer, Explorer, Champion, but many times you don't notice right away. So this add-on simply puts an icon on the gear so you know what rank it is. It might seem silly, but it helps a lot because instead of having to read whether it's Mythic, Hero, Champion, or something like that, I can just see the icon and say, oh, okay, it's this rank, so I know how much I can upgrade it. Does it also show you up to what level you can grade it? That's very convenient, right? To know if this item is really the one you want to upgrade or not. Another reason is that you can upgrade it to a higher rank, because many times you don't remember these things, so having it show with an icon that also seems well implemented within the game makes everything much more convenient. Another add-on that makes everything much more convenient and has a ton of utilities, so you don't need to install 40 different add-ons, is Leotrix Plus. Leotrix Plus has probably been used by many people for a long time. It has a ton of features. It can automate tasks like accepting and turning in quests, instantly accepting summons, automatically repairing all your gear, and selling all grey items directly. I mainly use it for these purposes. And then there's also the system for the camera. A lot of people ask me why I have the camera so far away. Well, with this add-on, you can set it so that the camera zooms out further, but as I said, it has a ton of features. For example, you can loot faster, you can mute certain sounds that might otherwise bother you. There are many people who complain that the Mii warrior Noma yells a lot, so you can mute that specific sound when he yells so it doesn't bother you. Like I said, you can do a ton of things. Take a look and you'll probably want to use it for something. You can even block party invites, dual invites, or guild invites. So it's highly recommended. You'll definitely get a lot of use out of it in the future or at some point. Another very convenient one is Talent Loadout X. It is true that Blizzard has now increased the number of builds you can save in your talent selection, but I don't find it intuitive enough to only see a drop-down menu here. I prefer to have this because first I can save infinite talent builds. I don't just have a limit of 40100. For anyone who wants to set Blizzard, I can add an icon to more or less know what I'm using it for. For example, if I want to make a build that is only useful for Khazara, well, I put this on, name it Khazara, right? And I save that build because I know that build is going to be for this specific boss. So it's much easier to locate it by icon. I always rely more on images than text. I think it's much easier to understand colors, images, and simple things like that instead of having to read so much because we're not here to read, right? You have a book that we are in WoW, so it is also highly recommended, very easy to use. Just double click and it directly changes the build so you can apply it later. You can save any build you want, you can add groups, you can make a group for Mythic Plus, you can make a group for Raid, and you have them separated by folders. Like I said, this is an add-on that I'll probably keep forever until Blizzard decides to do something similar, which I don't think they will. And now we are going to move on to another add-on more focused on management and preparation for both Mythic Plus and Raid. For Mythic Plus, we have the classic MIDI dungeon tools. Is it essential for everyone to have it, and why? To manage routes, nothing more. The tank gives you a route, you can see it, you can see what they are doing at the moment, and if you have a better route, you can consider it, right? You can say, hey, look, it's better not to do it this way, we can take these three. So you come like this, you simply select the pool you want, add it. If you want to add another pool, hold down shift, left click, and keep adding troops to that pool. Very easy to manage. You will surely use this a lot. It's much easier to have an organization before starting a stone instead of having to improvise. For example, knowing the timing of the bloodlust, you can put it here with a note. If you want to put some specific things, you can do that too. This works and will work for all expansions, even for old dungeons. If for any reason you want to pass an old route because you play on Firestone or whatever, it also works because you even have the Legion stones here in case you want to do them. So it's completely prepared for everything. And then for the raid topic, we have method write tools. Many of you probably already have it, and if not, your RL will ask you for it at some point, not for nothing, but because it has what I think is the best feature, which is the notes, right? You can use it to either organize CDs, as you see here. I know the format looks a bit weird here, but once it's written down, it's much easier to understand who is going to use each defensive. Instead of having your RL call it out all the time, you can make a note that says, look, first it's going to be used. Then Laura will use her 400th, then Mackay, then Vayne, whatever. Or here you use your CDs, then here defensives, just notes to have it written down so that everyone in your raid can use it. You also have an option to manage raid CDs if you don't want to use Omnic, although I personally prefer Omnic CD. From here, if you are RL, you can see the gear people are using, and if they don't have it enchanted, it will notify you so you can give them a hard time. It also has a ton of features, including a bar for marks directly if you want to manage it this way. You can also see how many pulls each boss took to kill, a bunch of things. You can even check who has your weak auras, the typical person in your raid to whom you send a weak aura for a boss because it's important, and they don't want to download it because they think raiding with add-ons is super easy, and that people in Warfare only have the Warfare because they play with add-ons, and without add-ons they wouldn't be able to do Heroic. Well, you can see if that person doesn't have the 12 weak auras, and you can scold them and make them install it because they're lazy. Okay, so it's also highly, highly recommended, and if you've stayed with me this far, I'm going to give you one last recommendation that has nothing to do with the endgame, okay? And regarding my interface, one thing that will help me a lot in the first days of the expansion, especially when we have early links that we want to make the most of to earn money, level up professions, and gather resources, is the add-on farm HUD. What this add-on does is that you bind it to a button, and it changes your interface so that the map is centered on your screen. It also displays your character as an arrow in a circle, and the directions appear as you go. Nodes for both herbs and veins, everything that exists in the world, you know. It's much easier than having to look up to the top left or having to search for the nodes with your view. It even leaves a trail showing the path you've taken so you don't repeat the route and encounter something you've already farmed. This way, you can take a real tour around the entire map without repeating locations. Highly recommended during the first days of an expansion. I'm going to use it a lot when you're farming in a relaxed style to get materials and make money since no one has materials, so it's also highly recommended. These are the add-ons I use the most, and with this, you can more or less have my interface as it is. And as I said, if you have any recommendations, leave them in the comments if there's any add-on I missed, and if not, just download it and that's it, okay? Take care, guys. See you. Bye, 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 bye.